Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of QTube. We are joined today by a singer, songwriter, videographer, creator, industrialist. Maybe we'll say throw that into the works because I feel like there's not enough adjectives to describe the talent that's going on here. Today, we are joined by Glass Battles, and
how's it going?
welcome to YouTube. It's going good. How's it going for you?
It's going so well. Thank you for that multi-hyphenate introduction. I really appreciate that. Nice ego stroke to start the conversation with.
Well, for anyone who doesn't necessarily, they're not familiar with you or are just getting familiar with you, they will understand by the end of this why it's multi-hyphenate, because you have a lot going on. And before we get too far into it, I would like to say congratulations on the release of All Hearts, the song, as well as the video, which is your latest single.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, it's been nice to let it out in the wild. It was a long time putting it together, so I'm happy it's finally out.
I believe it was a long time, because the creation of the music is one part, but the creation of the video, and I will say, I've seen some pretty good videos from artists that are kind of just using what's at their disposal. There's a couple of brothers in Australia who do incredible, amazing things with just lampshades and lights. But
cool.
You've really taught, and I believe taught yourself an art there. But before we get too far into that, the song's been out for about, is it 3 weeks or so?
Yes, it was probably, I have no concept of time right now during all of this. I think so. It's about 3 weeks or a month it's been out. So, and the reception's been great.
So.
Yeah.
It's been a bit, it's been like, I think 3 weeks to a month is probably right for that.
I think so. I'm like, I have no idea. It could literally have been out for, 7 years at this point. I'd be like, yeah, sounds right. March was 5 years ago.
Right about you're right about the time, and not and time being really weird right now, and just trying to kind of think about that. It's kind of like what was the date that it was out and what was happening, because usually we have big markers in the summertime of when it came out.
Yeah.
Oh no, it came out about 3 weeks after this festival or this or that, where it's so quiet right now. It's kind of like, wait, when did it come out?
And I'm in California too, so Southern California, so it's like there is no like seasonal markers pretty much ever. I'm like, it's 60 degrees out, maybe it is winter time. I don't know, but
it's a fantastic song, and listening to your back catalog, especially the last album, which was immense as an album. It was really sprawling as an album, and because you had it like kind of broken up into 4 different sections, if I recall correctly, and it was very based in like a lot of fantasy. There was a lot of really interesting themes that was in that album, but now with All Hearts, it's kind of taken an uptick in terms of I don't know. I feel space, and not just because of the video, but I do feel it's a little bit more of that kind of, we're going into another realm. We've left the last album's realm and we're heading somewhere different.
Absolutely.
And this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first single post last album, correct?
Well, sort of, yeah. I'd say so. I'd say the official. I think the official. I guess so. This is sort of a transitional single, I think, because the official single of the next era is coming out on September 18th, actually.
So we're close to the new one.
We are.
So is All Hearts going to be? So it's not. Is it going to be part of the new kind of?
It is, but I don't think it's gonna. It is, but I don't think it's going to reflect necessarily kind of what's happening sonically. I think, in general, the next single is going to be a much more indicative of kind of like what you can expect from the following releases. But it all weaves together, and story-wise too, and kind of like I have taken it upon myself to like sort of weave a plot in through my releases, because the album that came out in October was actually my debut album, and it's Glitchcraft Volume 1. And so basically this is all of it weaves together, and you're going to notice that too with my visuals, in terms of just kind of like there's a story that begins to unfold, which is going to be pretty cool. So
it's interesting with an artist like yourself, because number one, I had to kind of go and learn a lot about you to see where some of the themes come from. But Glitchcraft as itself was a little bit of a marriage of kind of sci-fi and fantasy in that theme. But it really is a whole storyboard that's in that album. Do you like, and I think you kind of already mentioned it, but when you sit down to write, do you have a full kind of span of what it is that you're gonna attack?
I do, actually. I think in Glitchcraft Volume 1, like the Temptation in the Garden at Dark was sort of like an idea that I had basically kind of, the reason it took me so long to put the album out as an artist was literally based completely on resources. So it wasn't even like, I don't know what to write. Like I had these demos like just sitting and waiting for a while, and then a bunch of new ones, about like maybe like a third of the albums, like all like was kind of like extremely close to when the album came out. It was kind of just like things that I was like, this has to go on there instead, kind of thing. But yeah, it's been like kind of a plan in the works. I'm crazy because I have like essentially, I'd like to think, and things will change obviously, but I have quite a lot planned from this first album through the next couple of things. Like there is a big part of it that's organic, and that does keep shifting as well. But I've got like I think I've got a nice plan ahead of me that I'm excited to kind of let everyone see. And I feel like All Hearts, that video, was the first chapter of the actual story that is going to continue. So I'm excited.
It's and like I already said, it's a pretty fantastic video. I love to say to folks that it's like, I can't get this done and I don't know how to do this. And I'm like, well, I'm like, there's videos out there that will show you that with a little bit of tenacity and sitting down and teaching yourself some things, because I'm assuming that are you primarily self-taught with everything that you put into that video?
Yeah. I mean, everything with music too. Like that's how I went into music production. Like it's all based on, I moved out here like 15 years ago, and then maybe about 10 years ago I just decided one day that I would want to learn music production and engineering. And I just kind of like, it's basically, it was in the beginning, it was mostly financial reasons, because I was younger and I was kind of like bouncing around jobs in Los Angeles, which is its own adventure. And it just became like if I wanted to do something, I had to do it. And I don't know why it took me so long to kind of get there with video stuff too, because that's how I've always been. But like, I think it was just sort of like, there's so much hangups with hiring a team, or like, working with people and collaborating is always amazing. But like, this just became like, I'm here, I'm stuck here. What am I going to do? And then this kind of turned into something that I actually, for the moment at least, prefer. So I'm very thankful for that.
You have a keen eye for it, that is for sure.
Thank you.
It's really impressive to know that, like, I don't even know where you started, and maybe that's the question. It's like, how did you start with this video? Because there's so much that's in there. I mean, you have a lot of backgrounds, and obviously there's a lot of computer animation, or there's pre-existing video, I think maybe that you may have lifted. But again, I don't even know where you start with something like that to create an entire space odyssey for yourself,
right,
for a song. But yeah, how did you start? How did this whole process happen with the video?
Yeah, so when we officially went into it, I had actually just like gotten sick with coronavirus. Like I felt sick officially that day that it happened too, and I was just like, fuck. And I went to the doctors, got my test, was positive for coronavirus. And so I'm also like a little bit of a hypochondriac with just things in general, like not typically, not crazy, like it's not extremely expansive, but like this was just like the worst nightmare for that type of thing. So I basically, this is also turning into like the least fun story. So anyways, fast forward to like about a week and a half into that, like, I'm feeling a little bit sick. I'm at home, I'm in my blanket. I'm like, like having like hot flashes and like or having the chills. And I was just like, I can't just sit around all day being like, what am I going to do? And because of quarantine, I know so many artists like myself as well were kind of thrown into a moment of being like, what am I going to do? Like, I kind of can't play shows, obviously, for the moment. And none of us knew how long we were going to be in this. And it just turned into like, I think I was just like up, and my sleep schedule just went erratic in the beginning. I was like up until like 4 or 5 in the morning, just like literally scrolling through like the internet or whatever. And I was on Amazon and I just saw an astronaut costume and I was like, it's so cute. Cause I had like plans for volume 2. This is a little piece of information not a lot of people actually know, but volume 2 was supposed to come out in October of this October. And I'm glad that it didn't, because so many things have changed. And the core of what made that album really cool, or what makes that album cool, is still there. But like so many things have developed that like I'm glad that now it's gonna be spaced out a little bit more differently. But anyway, so I bought the astronaut costume, and then I was just like, I wanted to make a space odyssey. I have my like, you know, little setup here for recording audio and stuff. So I just recorded that little in the beginning of the video, right after the title sequence, when I'm having that conversation back and forth with my hologram sidekick Audrey, is the first thing that I recorded. And I basically I called my friend Mackenzie up. She lives up the street or whatever. And I was just like, you know, it was like midnight. I texted her. I was like, hey, do you want to do something weird? And she was like, what? And I was like, would you want to like, can I call you on speakerphone and just record you into my microphone? I was like, I'm doing this thing. I was like, I don't know what it's going to be yet. I was like, it might be a music video. I was like, but I kind of like, if you could play a version of like Mars Control, I was like, let me just write up a like quick little script or whatever, you know. And I had it like no idea. And that was before I'd even animated the character. And so she just like, you know, she's one of those friends that was like so cool to just be like, hell yeah, let's do it. And so we did that over the phone. And then I filmed part of the stuff in my costume when I'm walking through Mars. I literally had a blanket held up behind me like this or whatever, because I hadn't even gotten the green screen yet. And I was like, maybe this will work, because I had like this bright red blanket, and kind of, I was like, if maybe it's a bright color, I can use it. And it kind of worked. Anyway, so then I bought the green screen, I bought the lamps, and then I just was like, okay, so this is perfect. And I also at the same time was trying to figure out, it was funny because as I was doing this at the same time, I was trying to figure out video stuff for All Hearts. And I like kind of, I had shot something, I completely shot a video for All Hearts actually, initially. And it was fine. It was there was no sort of mystery of the do-it-yourself type of thing. Like there wasn't kind of like, it was just like, you know, I kind of built some set stuff in my living room with like, like, and by built sets I mean like I like made like a little blanket fort. I was like, this is cute, and like pointed a light at it or whatever. but anyway, so then I was like, why don't I just do this? So that was how it started basically. And then from there I just, you know, I ended up teaching myself Cinema 4D and Blender, the animation programs, and did that through tutorials. I mean, I had a lot of free time. So, and I'm surprised that it stuck. Like, you know, it's one of those things, if you're watching these videos, a lot of them are very boring. So it's just kind of like, you know, no offense to any of them, they're just very tedious, just kind of like going through step by step. But it just kind of clicked. And then I started building the Mars atmosphere and everything, and just kind of like ended up snowballing. And then voila, like pretending it's so easy.
Voila,
and then it was done. Right.
So already you've got a fantastic song that is really uplifting. And I don't know if anybody has ever told you that. When you first listen to it, for me, it really is uplifting. It kind of perks you right up, and kind of carries you off. So already I'm kind of like, I'm engaged. I'm right there. And then you hit me with this video that, and as a sci-fi geek, right? So
right,
maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm biased.
It's a good bias though. Like, you know, it's
a great bias. But you hit me with that and I'm kind of like, I would not have taken the song to that visual.
Yeah.
But it totally changed the song for me in a way.
Right.
And really opened it up even more. And I think it's really, and again, I don't know if anybody how many people have said it to you, but it's like, it really is, serves to who you are as an artist and your visuals and your eye for it and your ear for it, to create something that is that layered and that texturized. I think it's fantastic. And I think you have a really great, I had a conversation this morning and I almost said the exact same thing to somebody this morning, where I think what you do and what you've done with this, because I do believe you're probably going to get quite a bit of attention, not just because you were in Billboard, but because I think that people will gravitate towards this. But I think what you've done is you've shown a whole group of people who sometimes struggle with this, that it can be done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, for sure. And I think, and I hope that inspires other artists to kind of like, I mean, this has been my saving grace through all of this, just because, I mean, I can't imagine that anybody's really having an amazing time right now. I mean, there's a few people that are like, I'm like, okay, I'm like, they're, they're living the life. But, you know, a lot of artists I know kind of are feeling either a little bit stagnant or just kind of, you know, afraid of what's coming next. And, you know, it is possible. I don't have any background in film. I don't have any background in editing. Like, I didn't even have a background in music when I started this too. And I hope that that's like my one takeaway with people, is that like, if they know anything about me as an artist, is like, if you want to do it, you can do it, and you can do it without having sort of like an expendable income, because I don't have that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still a person that needs to like work to pay my bills, and it's still a struggle all the time as an artist. But that's, you know, that is a sacrifice that you do have to make in some cases, but it is possible, and you can do it well if you just kind of like, I'm like, as long as you just, you know, just get sick and then go on your computer and stay on there for 2 weeks. But no, just kidding. But nobody gets sick. Everybody stay healthy. But you know, it's just sort of one of those things where you can teach yourself if you let yourself just kind of like give yourself the patience and the focus. And also just, it breaks down all that stuff with the industry where it's like, you have to look a certain way, you have to sound a certain way. It's like, why? For who? Like, why do these visuals all have to look the same? And no, this is, you know, no offense to any of the artists that I know or don't know, my peers in the music industry, but there is a lot of similarities with a lot of visuals. I'm seeing a lot of the same things all the time, and it's cute, but it's also just kind of like, where's the personal stamp?
It's even hard to ask you this, like, where do you want to take it next? I mean, this is now that you've like, I've created Mars, and where do you kind of go from that? I know obviously you said that you're looking at the next how long did this story, and I'm jumping all over the place because I get very excited by this kind of thing, but how long did the video take you to do?
It took me about a month, I think, altogether, technically, because there was actually a Pride live stream that I was a part of at the end of June, and I did 6 kind of like a lower scale videos for that as well, because they were like, you can pre-record your performance, and I was like, and then it turned into this thing. So I had taken that month off from All Hearts or that 3 weeks or whatever, and made those videos. And some of them are awesome too, but there's some stuff I want to add to them, but that's a whole different story. But it took me about a month basically. But
so if you're planning another single, not too far from now,
yeah.
are you planning to do video with it as well? Is video that like important to you? Yeah,
of course. I mean, like,
I thought you were.
Yeah, my generation is like, you know, when I was, not to age myself in any way, but like, you know, it was like the advent of music videos when I was a child. It was like Madonna, Prince, Michael Jackson, and then like, you know, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, like even like, you know, the grunge bands and everything, like everybody, Marilyn Manson, Aqua, there was all these artists that had visuals that like are still like, even like stuff like Nine Inch Nails video for Closer, things like that. Like, these are things that like last forever. Like that, like iconography is something that I've always been, you know, that's a part of the excitement, I feel like, of being an artist. And I don't necessarily think that visuals have fallen by the wayside by any means, because there's a lot of great quality stuff still coming out. But like, I think the sort of like, I'm looking forward to seeing visuals becoming as important as the song again. And I think that's happening. I think that sort of importance, like you said, is sort of like, you know, rising to the surface again. So, but yeah, no, this next song has a video. They're all connected actually. So because All Hearts is going to be is a trilogy. So it's going to be All Hearts. And then there's a teaser at the end, very briefly, of one of the songs from the first album. That's going to be the next video. That's not the next single though. They're going to kind of stagger throughout. And then the next single that I have, but I'm trying not to give away things too. All this is very cryptic. So the next single that I have is set within the same universe, but it's not the astronaut and Audrey storyline, but that one will continue as well.
We're really in a time period, and I believe this, of the rise, the next wave of the independent artist, the do-it-yourself artist, kind of taking back control within music, because they don't have the resources, they don't have the money, they don't have the budgets, but they're making it happen. They're looking back to what was working and what was successful, and
Right.
they're using that as a bit of a pattern to create and kind of go forward. Whether they're
Right.
in their bedroom, I don't even care where they are. They could be on a street corner for all I care. They're creating it themselves because they have
Yeah.
to.
They have to, yeah.
And then I'm hoping it's a wake up call to industry in a way, that where so many artists have so much to offer and have been, in my opinion, tucked in the corner, and it's been more of a, we'll get to you when it comes around that we need something like you, but we're going to concentrate and focus on this spectacle over here because that's our bread and butter.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. But what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from a lot of artists is that they're taking control of their own, and they're not salivating as much for industry authority the way it used to be, that they're kind of like, if I have to remain independent and this is the way it's going to be, I know I can make it work because I'm making it work right now, and I have to make it work. You know, it's not red carpet. But
I mean, the thing for me is like, I'm like somewhere in the middle, because I also like, you know, being a part of a major label is something that I still am aiming for as an artist. I know that there's been like horror stories, but I have like an entire comprehensive plan, and I know exactly where I exist within my capabilities. And by the time that this happens, when this happens, like hopefully very soon, actually, like it'll be an easy thing for me to put things on the table to be like, this is what I can do without a budget. Like, imagine what I can do with a budget. And of course, I understand there's different constraints to how labels work with, you know, 360 deals and all that kind of thing. But like, it's one of those things where I want to have that investment because I know I can make a return on it. And I think a lot of people are drawn to this industry for the wrong reasons. And a lot of people are drawn to this industry to perhaps want to become famous and that kind of thing. And they don't understand that like there is still like a job. There's still like a business to be had on top of being an artist. And, you know, it just takes a person who really, really wants it and you have to educate yourself on the industry. Like, in order to be a part of it, you can't just take a job and be like, I have no idea what I'm doing, because it's not just singing in a studio. It's not just like posing for pictures, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much work to it if you want to make an impact and be sort of like, you know, have a lasting career.
The image behind you, you mentioned that it's part of kind of like where you're headed. And I'm picking out a few things, and I've been staring at it for a bit, because it does have
By
that
the way,
kind
I
of.
apologize for that. I feel like it's a very hard thing to stare at. I just realized that. I'm like, these are very harsh colors to have him on his full screen.
Not at all. It's given me a couple. I mean, the guy kind of looks like a quasi either Shia LaBeouf or Post Malone that's on one side, but the lady is very almost kind of noirish.
She is,
and she's there's something about that. But I mean, and then you have the red and the blue and the light blue kind of electro kind of thing, the neon bits of it. So it's got a little bit of an electricity, a little bit of a I don't know, Blade Runner-esque or something that's going on there. But I was just curious about it.
Blade
like,
Runner is.
Where's the visual taking us?
Well, that's actually me right here. This Post Malone guy. So that's actually
it's
a shot from the next video. I will say that you're very warm with Blade Runner. So, and I think that like, you know, the colors and sort of like the way that this is, it's just sort of what it's showing, and what people I think will realize very quickly when the next single comes up. 'Cause the next single is it's still in the wheelhouse of like being catchy. But it is aggressive. It is like very much like pop music with like fangs, but like it's sort of like All Hearts is like Wicked stepsister, basically. It's kind of just like, it's because it's like they're from completely different worlds sonically, but it's still sort of like, you know, it's still pop construction, but this is just sort of like a little bit of industrial insanity. You know, the video won't be out for probably maybe like a little while after the single, but it's going to be like a blend of like sort of like a Blade Runner meets film noir type of thing happening. So It's gonna be because I wanted to put together aesthetics that you don't typically see together, and you don't really see kind of like that sort of elegant, like, uh, golden age of Hollywood mixed with sort of like an extremely kinetic kind of chaos of like post-apocalyptic Blade Runner Tron type of, future dystopias. Normal stuff, just very basic things.
No, but I love that. I love that kind of juxtaposition of different styles, where you're hit with, one kind of image, and it automatically gets into your brain that it's like, oh, this is what it's going to be like, and then it's like a bit of a wet snap to you when you shift gears so quickly. I think it's engaging, and I think it's really exciting when visuals are treated like that. I think it's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah. And my dear friend Mercy Colazzo is actually going to be on the track with me, which is amazing because I've known her for a few years and we've been talking about doing this for a while, and the moment just struck. And she's got this incredible, I'm sure that was part of the influence too, just subconsciously. She's got this incredible, almost Billie Holiday meets Adele type of Janis Joplin, like just crazy, crazy vocalist. And the song is not at all, I think, the style that she would typically go in, just because it is wildly different. But I like sent her the track and she was like, yeah, let's do it. I could tell she was also probably like, what are we gonna do? But she was amazing. We did it piecemeal too. So she was sending me her vocals and what she wrote for her verse and for her pre-chorus and stuff. And just like, I've never gotten that like focused of a response, like in terms of like content from people. Sometimes people are like, what should I do for this, blah blah blah. She just like sent me like a WeTransfer of like a folder of just kind of like take after take after take, and she was like, whatever you need, boo, like it's all in there. She's amazing. So I would honestly check out her music too if you have any time to. It's Mercy Colazzo. She's incredible, another fellow queer artist.
Well, yeah, I want all the queer artists. I feel it's just like, where's my flute? I must be the pie.
Right.
And I have no problem with that, saying that. It's interesting because you are in California. You're in LA, right? Or are you outside of LA?
I'm in West Hollywood.
You're in West Hollywood, so the WeHo kind of area. I say that like
gay men have heard of it before. You may have heard of it, yeah.
There's a real interesting kind of sectionality that's happening in LA within the queer artist kind of realm. And you've already mentioned Nine Inch Nails Closer, which, God love you, that's like one of my top fives of all time songs. And the next song kind of being much edgier or being a little bit more industrial kind of thing. That what you're doing is very different from a lot of what we're seeing from LA, because there's a lot of that hyper pop, or just the R&B pop kind of thing, the traditional, I guess, pop style that's going on there. Do you find that people are starting to open themselves up a little bit more to a broader sense of that pop music genre, that it doesn't necessarily have to be all nestled within that?
I think so.
That cube?
I think so, and I think it's happening pretty slowly at the moment. I think that there is a lot of people that are giving themselves a lot of credit for doing that, and they aren't, to be perfectly honest, because they're still releasing like a very pleasant like pop construction, very easy R&B, very vibey, very non-threatening. Because I think visuals are there's a lot of people that, like, I think with their aesthetics and with their visuals, it's a lot easier to be sort of what's the word, exciting or threatening with a visual. But I think there's a lot of people that kind of are confusing that now with like, that's who I am as an artist. I'm like, show me in your songs too, because I feel like it's happening. And the only reason I say that is because like I am a 90s kid. I'm like, like late 80s, 90s kid. And so like the late 90s industrial music, like The Dope Show, Marilyn Manson, like Garbage's version 2.0. Garbage is my favorite band of all time as well, which I'm sure if like Shirley checks in on this at some point, she's gonna be like, why do you literally keep name dropping me in every single interview? And I'm like, well, because I have to, boo. But anyways, they're just, those are my. I'm excited to be doing this. I know that I'm one of the few artists that's doing this now again. I know that I have a friend. Her name is Luna Ora, and she is incredible. And she's releasing her music. Reminds me of like just like straight up like aggro grunge from the mid '90s, and it is like so well produced and she's so incredible. So it's nice to see, because I see a lot of '90s influence in visuals right now. It's nice to see what was amazing about the '90s in music start to come up, and I think there's a space for everybody. I just would love to see more more darklings start to appear here and there, because there's a lot of angry people out here right now. I feel like this is the time. There's a lot of like, I'm like, we have a lot of us are pissed off, you guys. Like, it's time that we, instead of like trying to like chill by the pool every day, let's like, do something else.
You're right. And I think about, and to talk Shirley Manson just for a second. I used to work music retail, and I remember when the first Garbage album came out, and I was like, it was literally
So
like somebody had just shocked me with a cattle prod, and I was like so excited. I was like vibrating.
What an album. It was like.
And Shirley Manson, I mean, as well. I mean, you're right. Artists like that and what they were doing, what Garbage was doing, and what Shirley Manson has done on her own, changed the course of a lot of music, of directions, and it opened things up for artists to realize that they can play in so many different sonicscapes that they thought was maybe off limits to them.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But they learned how to incorporate it into their music, and I think that what you're doing and what you're bringing to the table, and not just with All Hearts, and I love All Hearts. Don't get me wrong, it is a fantastic song, but to dig further back into what you've been doing has led up to All Hearts, and it really is a little bit of a pathway into where hopefully we're heading in music.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the first album is definitely indicative of sort of my core sound. All Hearts is as well. All Hearts just happens to be, I have, a variety of speeds, and that's kind of why the album was sort of split into the identities, which was like the Tempter, the Empath, the Protector, and the Witch was just sort of like, to me, like the musical themes of the album that ended up becoming like sort of sentient characters in this world, which you'll see as well. But but All Hearts for me is definitely one of the sort of more gentle songs that I have in terms of kind of like sonic landscape, and I think I just kind of wanted a nice, I mean, especially during all of this too, I wanted to release a song that's going to make people feel, sort of calm and safe in that kind of way, and and also just cleanse the palate before I throw everybody to the shark pit. A lot of people are afraid to come together with their different styles and sounds. I'm like, we don't have to like be the same artist to like be on the same like tours together, the same, or like collaborate on songs together. And that's like the beauty. It's like everybody has their strength. Everybody has what makes them like incredible and unique. And nobody should ever be afraid of expressing what that is, regardless if it's not necessarily the most popular thing. I mean, Billie Eilish, I think, really took the industry and like kind of turned it on its head, and in a way that it hadn't been in a while, because of just like her popularity, like her music. I've loved her music, and I was so happy when it became this phenomena with her popularity, because it showed a shift. I think Lana Del Rey was also a big part of that as well. Like, years before that, you started to see like a shift in the sonic landscape where songs were slowing down finally, because like there was like that one moment in time where it was like burr, 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 and it was like every single club song, it was like all we could get from any artist, and like Lana Del Rey was like, here's a VHS video and a very slow sad song, and she's kept going ever since. But she I think she actually started the sort of kind of like generation of like putting things into arenas that aren't as comfortable necessarily, and that reminds me a lot of the '90s. So I hope that it continues, and I hope that people just kind of start building on that, and stray away from what might seem safe or comfortable, because fuck that. Like, it's art. It's not supposed to make people, I mean, some of it can, and it should, some songs should, but it's not always meant to just make you feel comfortable and happy. Like, that's just one emotion on like the spectrum of experience.
completely. You know, and I even think about some of the live shows I've seen in the past versus more recent ones,
Yeah.
where I hate to use the word lazy, because I
No, that
don't
is the
think people,
word. I mean,
there's a
it's so weird.
laziness that
Right. It is lazy.
creeps
And the reason
in.
why the reason why I say it's lazy is because I know so many artists that I'm like, are only in my opinion, are what could be categorized as a little bit sort of uninspired or lazy. And you ask them who their influences are, and they immediately start rattling off these icons. And I'm like, where? I'm like, where is the Grace Jones, David Bowie, Madonna, the Beatles references coming from? Because they're not happening in anything that you do. And I don't really know if you understand that, like, you don't get 100 chances to prove yourself like that. Like, do it now. Who you are as an artist and who you admire, see what they do, watch their documentaries on their tours, like listen to their albums, and like figure out like what made it amazing, and try to use that as inspiration instead of using like just your general like whatever playlist is like hot at the moment, which has like the same 20 artists like circulating their new singles every 2 weeks. It's just kind of like the same bullshit. It's like, just start to, unless everybody wants to be compared to, I don't know. I'll just stop there
It's
because I'm like,
but I mean, it is true. Like, and you see that happening. And I mean,
yeah,
I have a love-hate relationship with Spotify, and I talk about them a lot only because they're one of the largest ways to get music
yeah,
out there. But at the same time, that does happen where there's like, here's your 30 artists that get to be on a Spotify playlist. And then if you happen to be paying attention to your own, we've made this for you because based on your tastes, then you may find more. But there's just such a rich landscape of music that's being made that doesn't get heard. It's a
right.
travesty. And I mean, I know we can't listen to everything, but my God, we can try.
Well, the thing is too, I feel
It's
like these
just,
playlists, like there's always like the hot songs or whatever the hell it is. Like, I'm like, isn't there more alternative artists on there? Like, it's all pop. I'm like, there can be pop on it, and there should be, obviously, but like, this is the problem, is that like, for all these genre bending artists, like, the hilarious part is that like Spotify and Apple Music and other platforms like just seem to immediately still want to just throw them into very, like, I don't know, clerical. I'm like, what is the difference? I'm like, if they're all independent artists, what's the difference between alternative and, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like we're all, I don't know, everybody should be mixed together and should be able to like
they're like
enjoy that.
stereotypical silos almost in a way.
Right.
It's a silo and everybody gets their silo, but they're very stereotyped.
Right.
And then if people don't know what to do with you, well, you're over here in
And
fringe
also,
or
yeah,
whatnot. And
exactly. Right. And like the 90s was like, you turn on the radio, it was like you would cycle through like grunge music, like industrial rock, and then like super hyper bubblegum pop, and then just, R&B. And like, it was literally like, that is what music is. I think that all these artists that I enjoy, I think they all fill many categories. I also believe them all to be pop artists as well. My idea of pop music is very broad. It's not just like, what you would necessarily pin as that. But I think that's what it's dangerous, is when you start to say like, well, pop music is like this and rock music is like this. And I'm like, well, those are all very dated ideas. And I don't know.
but you could
Everybody
take
should get New Music Friday, We're all going to get New Music
yeah.
Friday, you guys.
True. Point, I mean, and that is the playlist everybody wants to be on, is something like that, because it gets the most views, right? And people check
Right.
out the top part of that playlist. Right. And as I was saying to a friend of mine earlier today, is that I don't think, I don't know if they care, and that's a separate issue altogether. But B, I really truly don't think they understand the importance of playlisting, and
Right.
and how people consume music, and how important it is for the artist.
Yeah.
You get a chance to be on a playlist that can do wonders for you. But if you
career changing for a lot of people too.
Completely. And it's really important. There's a responsibility there to
Yeah.
broaden those. And I mean, maybe I'm and again, as a music lover and someone who wants to always be broadening my musical breadth of knowledge and intake, I've listened to music that I didn't even know how to describe, and I've said, I don't know what this is that I'm listening to, but
Right.
there's something in this that's worth it to listen
Right.
to know
Good
about
music.
more.
Right. That's like me with my people are like, what's your type? Like when it comes to dating, I'm like, hot. Like that's my type. It's like, because that's the thing too, is like, there is literally, that's just also who I am as a person. Like I literally like, I think that everything has a place of value. And I think that this weird world that like keeps cycling, and I don't, like I said, like I don't think it's not that any of these songs don't deserve the success they have, but like there should also be other types of stuff that are getting the same traction, because it becomes that machine where it's like, of course, if this type of music keeps getting playlisted, then people are going to start recording music that sounds like that to get playlisted. And I know, I mean, that is how a lot of producers work right now. And a lot of artists gear their careers is to be like, what's popular? How can I make it sound just like that so that I can have this experience so that my career will advance? And so then it becomes this like cycle of just insanity of just like the same music just keeps like, you know, incestually happening, because it's like people are trying to use it to get there and people are getting there because they used it. And like, it just kind of like, I'm like, so who's the one calling the shots being like, okay, cool. So the new genre of music is blah, blah, blah. And that's why, and this is to close that, that's why I think Billie Eilish was important, because there was no music like that. That was like her songs, Bury a Friend, like things like that. I was like, this is amazing, because and it was popular and people are obsessed with it. And it's like, it just shows you that like the industry does not have a finger on the pulse of like what people find popular anymore. I think they're just kind of like, whatever. They're like, TikTok video music, sure, that's fine, we'll do that. Like, and even that like has more variety sometimes than some of these other platforms. It's just like, it's a crazy time, but I think change is coming.
Listen, I can only hope that change is coming. I think it's important. I think music has always been this catalyst for movement and progression. And
Yeah.
you know, if you're looking behind me, wherever it is over here on this side, I always keep my Live Aid DVD around,
Mm.
because you know, it's an example of how so many different types of music came together for a
Yeah.
purpose,
Seriously.
and
Seriously.
how it can be so effective in changing.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that is what hopefully the future of music
I think
looks
it's
like.
coming. I know that it is. I just think that like the culture of apathy is coming to an end. Like we've had a good run. It was, you know, we've gone through that before. I see that as sort of like the beginning of like the beginning of the mid 90s. Like 93 to 95 was sort of like the apathetic, like everything sucks. And then by the end of the 90s, it was just like wrath, which I was like, it was like pure unbridled expression and experimentation and no holds bar. Like, this is who I am as an artist, and I think it's going there, and I'm excited to be here in the industry when it's happening, because I know, I have a feeling this is where it's going, and if anything, I'm going to be doing it. So
You're definitely ready for it. Like, I mean, that's the thing. And you know who you are as an artist, and you know what you kind of are bringing to the table, and what direction you want to go in. It's evident listening to your music. It's evident talking to you. And that's exciting, because I find a lot of artists get caught up in some of this is what it should be, because this is what success looks like. And I've asked
right,
some
but that
artists, like,
right,
what does success look like to you? And then they take a pause, because they're like, that's a really great question, because I don't necessarily know. Or they have a vision of what success looks like based on what they're told,
right,
in a sense, right? Like, it's when you're young, you don't necessarily know. As you get older, you figure out what it is that's important to you and what actually is success. What does success mean
of
to you, I
course,
guess, right?
yeah. I mean, I've had this like in my mind since I started, just because like it's, you have to have a certain, what's the word? I can only think of like Yiddish words. You have to have a certain like, you know, chutzpah of just kind of like, you have to be the type of person that
I
like,
like the word
yeah,
moxie. Moxie's a good word.
moxie. Yes, that's pretty much, you have to have, yeah, as with 1940s swindlers, have a good kind of moxie. See, no, but I think you do have to have thick skin. You have to have moxie. You have to have a plan. Otherwise, you're going to get taken advantage of. You're going to get swept away by the industry, and it's going to happen so quickly you're not even going to realize. And it's going to ruin what could be an illustrious career in there is a lot of beauty in the music industry. The industry is broken, but there's also like, you know, it does afford a lot of amazing artists to exist that have been so, you know, important to the zeitgeist and continue to be. So I think that like, just know who you fucking are, like, you know.
Who do you think is out there? I mean, you mentioned Billie Eilish, and I mean, even if they're not artists that are well known, who do you think that is out there that's kind of pushing the envelope towards some of that change that you're seeing, that's making music or bringing something to the table where you're kind of like, yeah, you've got it, you've got the right idea?
Yeah, I think definitely Billie Eilish, like I said, and then I think that artists like Dory and Electra are just pushing the envelope in like an exceptional way. Just even just like a picture, and you like know who it is immediately, and you're like, and the music just also falls into that same sort of envelope pushing mindset. And then, like I said, my friend Luna Ora she's taking off too, which is awesome. It's great to see it because the music is so good, and it's just not typical of what is usually deemed popular, you know what I mean? Like, and in terms of just sort of like that super polished pop experience, like these are sort of like the twisted prom queens and kings of the music industry, and I'm so happy that they're like, you know, arriving, because it's, you know. And who else is there that I really enjoy? I mean, like I still find garbage to be like an envelope pushing part of the industry, whether or not like people are familiar as they used to be, the younger generations and all, of course, but like, you know, they don't. There's basically like a garbage, like there's like a tree, I feel like, where you can kind of like branch down to like where the influence of like what they did in bands like that, and like bands like Goldfrapp and Dragonette. Like Robin is still an envelope pusher for me. Like, you know, Robin is just too cool. She's one of those artists that is like, and so is Goldfrapp's the same way musically, in the way where like they're always ahead of the curve, almost to a detriment sometimes. Like you don't see what people like, you don't see their sort of like mark on the musical zeitgeist until like 5 years later, and you're like, this is such a fucking Robin ripoff, or like a Goldfrapp ripoff. And I like that. I think it's the curse of being way too forward thinking sometimes, in a way, because you're no longer, sometimes you get so ahead of the curve, like people are like kind of like, huh, and then they're like, wait a minute, this is cool. It's like when Lady Gaga started introducing like crazy hair colors to like the pop girl zeitgeist, which was strange that it wasn't like that quick to happen anyways, but she was the one who basically brought like sort of like, you know, her and Nicki Minaj both brought this like crazy hair color, crazy wigs, you know, and then now we're still seeing sort of the after effects of that, just kind of with people in like the lavender and like peach wigs and like mint colored wigs and stuff. And obviously she didn't invent hair color, neither did Nicki Minaj, but they both had such a big part in kind of like making that a staple of like how you would like define them as an artist. Like those are the things you define, like amazing music from both of them, and then like also just kind of like the incredible aesthetics too. So
the individuality, right? And that just kind of courses through those artists.
And Dorian's just so hot, like just like everything about the aesthetic is just like, man, I could go on. And then there's also like artists, like there's also artists that come from TikTok or became popular kind of within the TikTok zeitgeist. Like I keep saying zeitgeist, like Megan Thee Stallion is amazing, and she became her, you know, Savage was so popular on TikTok, that song. And I think she is like, I don't think she's still like people, I don't think people quite understand the breadth of her greatness just yet, but they know that she's cool. They know that she has, you know, she has a WAP. So, but I think that like, you know, they're going to see something like artists like her and Lizzo as well are just like, I don't know. I just love music in different genres. I could talk about it. Most of them are female, obviously, as you can tell, just, or somewhere within the female perspective, because women should run everything.
I just love your excitement and your passion for music really kind of comes out. There's, whether it's because of something that excites you or something that kind of, you know, gets stuck in your craw. Just from this conversation, the passion that kind of comes out, it's all about just that love of music and the ability for music to move things. I think
that's how it should be.
That comes
it's supposed to be an escape somehow, you know, and that's sort of like our responsibility as artists, is to like bring that escape to people. And
the escapism part of it is very cool. The storytelling part of it is very cool. The nostalgia that can kind of be brought in by music is so, you know, it's a luxury to be able to listen to music and to be able to pull moments in time and moments in your own life or moments in somebody else's life. Like it's a luxury that we should never waste.
I agree. And I feel like those authentic moments are the things that really connect people to that song eventually. Like, you can pour as much money as you want into the promotion of the song. You can, you know, you can kind of put it on every radio station and whatever, but ultimately, like, if there isn't like a shred of authenticity to elements in the song and the artists, either if the artist didn't write it, at least within their performance, like, you know, because there's even like you think about songs like "I Will Always Love You" and how that was a Dolly Parton song initially, and then Whitney Houston's take on it. Like, that's a different category of a different kind of artistry too. It's like you're taking somebody else's song and you are so invested in this performance, and it means that much to you. You have that connection to Dolly that it's like suddenly this entirely different thing. But I feel like that's sort of the audience and artist now too, where it's like, or always has been rather. So it's like, if there's authenticity anywhere in what you're doing, it's going to resonate, and people are going to really be able to relate to it.
If you were going to take somebody else's song and make it your own, what would it be?
Probably maybe somewhere between either "Sweet Dreams" by the Eurythmics or "Silver Springs" by Fleetwood Mac, I think.
Sweet, I'd buy that. That's a, you know, yes, you should do that.
I might. I've been thinking about something like that. I mean, that song is such a juggernaut, though. It's like, how do you cover that? But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I will. Maybe I am. I don't know. You know what I mean? We'll see.
Listen. You know, this, I stopped even looking at my questions a long time ago that I wanted to kind of ask you, because this conversation has just been kind of flowing and I've loved every bit of it. But I also don't want you to be kept from your life. So this has been awesome. What should we expect from you, I guess, kind of moving forward for the rest of the year? What can we expect? What should we expect, or what shouldn't we expect?
What shouldn't we? What should we? What you should expect? I'm like messing up my tenses now. I'm like, what we should expect is obviously the new single is going to be out on September 18th. People are, and if anybody is watching this, if you follow me on Instagram, I usually do a very consistent, in-depth, over the top sort of rollout for everything, so you kind of get a taste of where everything is going sonically and visually. Lots of new music is coming this year, even before the new year. Lots of new music and lots of videos, and All Hearts video continues as well. And I think you're going to get the sequel to that sometime before the new year, but the next video, which is a part of the same universe, also starts its own, like, I guess a quadrilogy, I guess, because there's 4 videos. So there's a lot happening, a lot of videos. Glitchcraft is expanding. The world is expanding. Characters are happening. There's going to be so much more. There's things that are happening that are crazy, like outside of music videos and music. And I'll just say there's a lot of things that are coming out that are very interactive, that are very sentimental to our generation probably, and it's gonna be a fucking blast, so get into it.
I'm excited. I'm super excited by it. Yeah, all of that. It's great to have your and not to blow you up too much, but I'm going to blow you up a little bit here. It's great to have your take on this and what you're kind of bringing to the table, because it is exciting. And I think that if anybody's paying attention to music and are looking for things, this will excite them. This kind of conversation and what it is that you're talking about and what it is that you're bringing, what you already have out and what you already have planned, even just by looking at the background that's behind you and how you've talked about that. I think people will be excited by it, and I think that they're waiting for, you know, the music and the delivery of what you're bringing in, an artist like yourself. So I'm super jazzed to watch.
Thank you. I'm super jazzed too. No, it's gonna be crazy. And if you enjoyed All Hearts, and if people enjoyed All Hearts, then the next singles video is going to like blow your mind, because All Hearts is amazing, but this next one is like just complete insanity in terms of just like exposition and story, and it's crazy. I think that All Hearts is a chapter, and this next video is sort of kind of like almost like a comprehensive like encyclopedia of, or at least a chunk of one of this world that you're going to be introduced to, that includes All Hearts as well. So it's going to be so much fun.
I do have to ask you one thing, and it was the very first thing that I wrote down that I said, oh, I really want to ask that. I really want to kind of find out about that. And then you started talking, and then I kind of went, well, I'm not even looking at, you know, what I want to ask anymore. Glass Battles as a moniker, where does that come from?
It comes from, there's actually a passage in The Green Mile by Stephen King, who's one of my favorite artists and has been since I was a child. My mom, it was like, that was also a very like 90s kids moms culture thing. Like I feel like a lot of moms had Stephen King and like Dean Koontz and stuff like that. But I used to steal her books because I wasn't allowed to read any of them, obviously, because she was like, and I was like, but why is there a book with there's claws coming out of the sewer? Like, so anyways, The Green Mile is one of my favorite books from him, and I actually don't remember the entire passage off the top of my head. I have it saved though. I'll actually email it to you later because it's beautiful, but it's essentially just kind of talks about like the frailty of like the human experience and sort of like the struggle with like, you know, being introspective to a fault type of thing. So it's always stuck with me, and it's from there.
I thought it may be a literary piece. It sounded familiar, and I haven't read The Green Mile myself, but it did sound like very like that it was a literary piece that may have a connection to. So I'm glad that I was at least heading in the right direction.
I feel like you've got your finger on definitely on the pulse of things that I'm doing or where I come from. So your guess is probably correct. So don't give away too much, I guess. I mean, actually give away whatever you want. It's not confirmed. So allegedly all these things are happening.
Awesome. Well, listen, this has been fantastic. And for anybody who is watching, this is Glass Battles that you've been listening to. But yeah, the current single is All Hearts, and the video is All Hearts, and everyone should see it and follow you online at Glass Battles. And this is a conversation that I could like spend like the rest of the night actually in talking about. You have a lot of insight and a lot of thoughts on different things that I find personally exciting. So I'm hoping that
give me a call after. We'll have the off the record interview, and you'll get all of the details actually. So
so until then, I return you to your life, from which I quite rudely snatched you from.
No, this has been an absolute pleasure, honestly. So thank you so much. And I love that room that you're in, by the way, too. I'm obsessed with that room. There's such a nice styled vibe. The purple Q, the brand.
You know what? It's great, except when you're on Instagram and everything's flipped around backwards for people, and people say, "Why do you have a backward sign in your room?" And I'm like, "No, it's a real poster, and you're just seeing it backwards. And apparently, I need two: one for Instagram, one for non-Instagram."
I mean, I need one for every single channel. So there you go.
That's right. All right. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to return you to your life. And I want to thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you so much. Honestly, this was a pleasure. So talk to you soon, and check out Q Reviews, you guys, too. They're on Instagram. They're everywhere. Q Review.
Everywhere Q happens to be.
All right, glass battles, come follow me. A lot of weird stuff is happening, guys. I'll talk to you soon.